Hi, and welcome to the Coping Cafe. I'm Dr. Michelle.
Dr. Joe.
And today we're going to have a little more serious conversation. Today we're going to talk about the rise of depression and anxiety in our young adults, ages 18 to 25. And I was stunned, actually, to see the statistics that are out there. It just, I know in private practice we've both seen it.
Absolutely, yes.
And that people are coming in younger ages, but also people coming back into therapy right after high school, right after college. And I just wanted to actually, talk about that statistics. It's amazing to me when you look at what hospitals are, coming up with in terms of programs, anxiety in school refusal programs, young adult depression, inpatient and outpatient groups. But this from the Journal of Abnormal Psychology concerned me the most, and that is that there is a 13% rise in depression since 2009 to 2017.
Wow.
That's stunning. But it's between the ages of 18 and 25. And that, I think when I had to read it again, I wrote it down.
Read it again.
I read it again, and I know that it's true because I know you
We're
see
seeing it in our populations that we work with.
And it was just stunning to me. And so I really feel like this is something we should talk about in terms of what that means. And I was, I look at NAMI reports, National Alliance for Mental Illness. And sorry, thank you. She's gonna help me out with that. They're talking about just the sharp increase in mental health calls from that population. This transitioning group, high school transitioning group, out of college transitioning group, and what kind of calls they're getting. And it's very scary. They talk about, these super connected kids. But this was the interesting thing when you start to look at the research, is that they talked about these incredibly connected kids are less rebellious, more compliant, less happy, and, just unprepared for adulthood. And I was stunned and then not stunned, right? Mm-hmm. Because you think about it, I think so many kids have to almost join parents in their own anxiety, right?
Meaning what?
What I mean by that is I watch parents parenting out of fear. If you don't get good grades, then you won't have many options for college. Then you won't have a good job. Then you won't have a good life. If you drink or date too much, then you might get a bad reputation. Social media, it'll scar you for life.
It's all fear instilling.
It's fear instilling, and kids start to. There's a point where this age was an age of rebellion, an age to try and separate from the parent. And we are having less separation and more enmeshment with parents. And then there's also anger on both sides. Parents, as they age, are getting angry because they're old enough. We gave them everything. They should be out the door, right?
They shouldn't be living in our basement.
They shouldn't be living in our basement, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, exactly.
Right.
And then there's anger from the kids where, they resent the micromanaging from the parents, and yet the parents don't know what to do as their child is aging and not flourishing. So I think there's just so many things going on, and it's a really scary trend to watch as a therapist. Mm-hmm. And I know actually, I have kids in the young adult age. I know you now have your daughter in that age range. And it is scary to see, we were talking and the other day, and Joe was just saying how, you have to tell, your daughter, your son, just basically, hey, can you guys put that down? Can we talk?
Put down the phone, right? Because we talk about, in terms of social media, and it's almost this false sense of connectedness. You use that word.
Yes,
because they're really not, right? A pseudo connection. And they're not really having to have a conversation and pick up the phone. Or when we're out to dinner, I can't tell you how many times, give me eye contact,
please,
right? Let's talk, and these basic skills that were a no-brainer for us.
Right.
I think we're having issues in this younger population.
interesting you say that, because, I was talking about, what are the explanations? And some people are saying, well, maybe there's less stigma, so more people are seeking treatment.
Which
And
could be a portion,
that
right?
I think that is a portion. But part of the other part, where they're looking, where the research is going, is, is societal pressures. Every few years, the bar changes.
Up and up and up.
And at a lower
right?
age, too. At a lower age. If I don't get my child into this class now, they won't get, into the 8th grade.
Gifted program, the honors program. What is it now? The college prep courses, the AP.
The APs, if you don't get into that, and if you don't have enough of those, it won't weight your GPA enough. You won't, So I think the standard just keeps going higher and higher, so that's part of it, right? And then that's where kids do need to be enmeshed with their parents. They're, instead of just taking what they want to take and following a path, they're like, should I take this? They get caught up in the anxiety of their future, and their parents are anxious, they're anxious.
Just snowballs.
It snowballs. Exposure to trauma. So they were talking about that always, and that's still, whether I was exposed to trauma, you were, that would still be something, in the past and today. But the interesting thing about trauma is it gets to be shared online, right? Things that we never saw are things that kids get to see. There are suicides on the web. There are, graphic, really horrible things that were kept from us, right?
Right, and so that's in their mental Rolodex, so to speak. And I think it just exacerbates the problem, is what we're seeing. So
absolutely. And then you think about just images of, success of other peers. Every time you turn around.
The comparison.
Yes.
What was the quote you said?
Oh, yeah. Comparison is the road to misery.
Right.
And it really is.
For
and I
sure.
said that to anybody, because you look and people are going to post happy things. They're not going to be like, generally. I mean, there are some sad posts.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, look at what I did today. Look what I got on my grade. Here's my ACT score. Here's the boyfriend I have.
Well, cherry picking all the good stuff.
Right.
And we're not seeing what goes on in the normal everyday life. We all have our good or bad, our highs or lows.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So again, they're talking about, this, not only the social media, but also that less face-to-face time. And so when you think about that, right, so you're this, right, instead of having to look up. So let's say instead of learning a social skill, you're shy. So instead of having to be forced to talk to someone, you just look down, and then somebody else looks over and they're looking down. Look at a room at a college campus and look at a room in a lunchroom filled with kids.
Restaurant tables.
Like
I see this with families, right? That, everybody's looking at their phone and they're not having conversations with each other.
Right. There's some major emergency that they might miss, right? And so I think that's it. So here's the statistic, again, I keep going to different statistics, that 1980s, which would be us, honey. That would be the 80s.
It's a good decade.
Okay, yeah. So it's a very good decade. Well, it was because we had over an hour more face-to-face time than kids do today.
That's
a day.
Amazing.
That's a crazy amount if you think sometimes you got to sleep in there or something,
right.
Eat, all that other kinds of stuff. So we had over an hour more face time. And what does that mean? Well, what it means is with that less face time, increase in loneliness. So that connectedness that everyone's like, I need to be connected, is actually, again, false sense of connectedness. And I think that's a huge problem for all of us, right? So what happens, the other part of it is some of the best things we know to help with anxiety and depression are things like exercise, regular sleep schedule. And what we're finding is, and this goes across ages, so just so we're talking about that, but particularly between 18 and 25, that instead of sleep, up late on the iPad, up late on the computer, on the phone. So there's sleep loss, less sleep, right? And that makes us more vulnerable to depression and anxiety. And if you're looking down, and you can take that to your gym class instead of actually jogging or doing something in gym class, you just might be like text, and you might even be texting your own parents. But
yeah, right.
But so we're finding things that normally would be a buffer in terms of things to help us are actually now being replaced with other kinds of media. And it's going to be, and it's a huge societal problem, and how do we fix it? Because if you watch your own behavior. I watch myself when I hear that little beep or the vibration of my phone. What am I doing? And so it is something, I think it's a conversation that we start to have.
Absolutely. And I think maybe on the next Coping Cafe, we can talk about how do we remedy this situation? Yeah. What does that look like? What do you think?
I think that's a great idea. I would love that. So join us again on the Coping Cafe, and we're going to dive into this a little bit further. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Michelle, Dr. Joe, have a great evening.